Nihoi Minoi. Yeah, I was just reciting. I was just reciting the most iconic scene from the ripped pants episode, so it was on the brain. But yeah, we have returned from our 1 week hiatus. Man, this motherfucker jumped on fast. Holy shit! Let me come on. We're back at it. Uh, Conference finals are almost booked with just a game 7 to be played tonight between Toronto and Florida. A lot of Dev League playoffs are in full swing. The Clark Cup final is has been pretty dramatic, and has gotten some national media attention. But I will get to that when we are in a dedicated space for that sort of content. And of course, the Walter Cup final commences in 2 days as well. So really, just like we're at peak season for high quality competitive hockey right now. So this is a good time, to have reemerged from our temporary hiatus to tend to some major life developments on Christian's end. Certainly commemorated his birthday in a pretty memorable way a week ago. Happy belated to him, and congratulations on everything. And I'll let him take the floor first for anything he wants to address for topics this week.
Yeah, first I gotta highlight the fact that I love how the Montreal Victoires have such a great run historically in the postseason on my birthday. I've never seen a team love me so much that they've given me a total of, let me do some quick math. I've never seen a team decide to play 13 periods of hockey in just 2 games on the same day in 2 separate seasons, which is pretty fucking wild that they took a 3 OT game loss to Boston last year in a 4 overtime victory this past Sunday against the Charge. Unfortunately for them, that was their last victory this season, and once again, Corey Chevrier has managed to find a way to not roll her lines correctly, burn out her top stars, and turn what should have been an iconic and historic season for the Victoire into once again a first round exit. Um, I'm not going to go full pipe bomb, carpet bomb on the PWHL here, but I've had a lot of thoughts with the Walter Cup finals this year. Um, Probably most notably, I think that this finals matchup is probably the worst one that the league could have had. And to make it even worse, tonight's NHL game has very, very large implications in how it's going to impact the PWHL, solely because if the Toronto Maple Leafs are playing another round of hockey, they will be playing every single game against Carolina, directly schedule opposed to the PWHL finals. And we've seen it. The Leafs have the ability to really consume a lot of media attention in Canada. We know Ottawa's not a large market team. We also know that with the Minnesota Frost returning to the championship, most of the northeastern fans of the PWHL have already checked out and are very disengaged from the product. So there's a chance that this is going to be a very disastrous final for them as a league in terms of viewership. I'll be curious to see when I hop on to game one to see what the viewership looks like over on YouTube in the United States. I suspect it's going to be much lower than last year's 15 to 16,000 viewers on average in the finals, but I could be wrong. And to further extend my criticism of the league and specifically with Minnesota, I'm not saying that the league is rigged, but I am going to say that the league is not doing itself any substantial favors at this point. Something, we talk about in the WWE, you want to bring legitimacy to a belt. You want to make, championships feel important. You want them to feel special. So, when guys like Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins used to fight for the U.S. Championship when, Brock Lesnar decided he didn't want to show up to work, it brought legitimacy to a championship. The problem with the PWHL is if the Minnesota Frost win another championship, you're telling me the third worst team in the league can be pretty fucking butt cheeks all year, put it together the last week of the season, have a series of injuries break in their favor against their opponents, and fuck around and win back-to-back titles potentially as literally a bottom. We're talking about a 40th percentile team winning a championship in consecutive years. That's terrible. People will talk parity. No. The NBA has parity. The Knicks, the Pacers, the Timberwolves, hell, even the Nuggets and the Thunder. Parity. Those are all respectable teams. You know, we didn't think the Knicks and the Pacers were going to get the lucky breaks and injuries that they did in the East, but you can't tell me that neither of those teams don't deserve. Like, you can't say that those teams didn't earn their spot to be here. You know, New York still showed up. They came back. They erased big deficits. Indiana beat one of the best teams in the league. You look at the Frost, and it's just like, oh, they beat an injury depleted Boston Fleet team to end the year. They beat a Toronto Scepters team where clearly Nurse and Spooner were still nursing injuries. You look at that team where they couldn't go to their backup goalie due to injuries, so they were playing a terrible starter and had to go to the like the. It just feels like the quality of the league's championships are cheapening the experience of the teams. Luckily, you know, when we get away from a 6-team league next year to an 8-team league, you're going to immediately increase the value of that championship. But a Minnesota Frost championship win does very little to help the league, and I think it actually will hurt the league in the long run in terms of its profitability if they win in this series.
Very solid critique. Um, I will say, however, I don't know if there's an easy fix for this, but the output volume for your mic is like super low. Is there anything you can like assess immediately to see if there's anything that can be done?
Let me see. I'll take a look at my settings real quick. Could have just been location.
You don't seem much louder, if at all, currently.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah, I will bring him back on momentarily, just as he does some quick diagnostics. It's good that at least it was the guest speaker that was having this issue, so we didn't have to drop this entirely. We didn't lose all the valuable content that was cultivated there. Let's see. And he's ready to tab back in. Yeah, let's see what we got now. Yeah, maybe give it a quick run, see if there's any difference.
There. Any luck on that end?
Yeah, yeah, no, not really.
Interesting. Interesting. Weird.
That is strange.
Let's see. see.
Yeah, I think we'll probably just give this one more go. And if it doesn't work, we're just gonna deal with it. I apologize to everyone for like the delays here, as well as the fact that the volume will be low on certain segments of this on his end, speaking wise. But yeah, it's not something that's a make or break, just not our preferred presentation quality we would want to give you. So if we can get this optimal, we would, prefer that the most for the sake of the quality of the product that we provide to you all.
All right, that's going to be my last attempt with my headphones. If it's not working better, I will switch off of those and shift over to standard microphone.
Yeah, it'd be like that sometimes with the Bluetooth headsets. Like that's why I don't even like use mine because like the mic quality would be so bad that it just wouldn't even be worth it. Mostly in the fact that the volume output wouldn't be significant enough. Uh, uh, Additionally, that's also why, just so I can obstruct some of it, I just use my in-ear headphones for whatever hockey content I might be watching at any given time. Uh, yeah, this will be that last run. The only thing I can assess is that the mic for his, like the audio input for his headset is on its last legs, or maybe not that, but just as taking a hit, um, which happens. Uh, these things have a natural lifespan, so to speak. And he is back, I think. Yes. Nope. All right.
Aha.
It's basically the same, it feels like, but whatever.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a little disappointing, but
Very interesting.
what are you gonna do? Um,
Oh.
well, on that note, I guess we'll tap into the Dev League corner for this week. So as is established at this point, the OHL and WHL champions have been decided by way of the London Knights defeating the Oshawa Generals in 5 games in a rematch of last season's J. Ross Robertson Cup final. Of course, this was significant for head coach Dale Hunter in a historic context, especially as he tied legendary Niagara Falls Flyers coach Hap Ems for most OHL/OHL equivalent championships in history with 5. With this being London's 6th overall, with of course him having missed the 2012 title to take the job with the Washington Capitals for most of that season. Um, and I believe with his brother Mark having assumed the bench boss role on what was effectively an interim basis, with him already serving within the org as GM. But yeah, just another feather in the cap of the most, I guess, effectively the most dominant franchise of this millennium. They're still chasing that third Memorial Cup, but I believe they have the most championships of their respective CHL member league, any of the three, in this span from 2000 to present. So, like, really, it's just well, am willing to say at this point that Dale Hunter has a very persuasive case for the greatest Dev League coach of all time, which is really saying a lot considering, like, the resumes on some of these other guys, such as Brian Kilray, of course, with his many years of servitude behind the bench of the Ottawa 67s. The many accomplishments in NCAA by the likes of Jerry York, Jack Parker, and many others that are in that conversation. Just there's been so much consistency over the last 2.5 decades, and just this high standard that has been held and lived up to throughout that whole space. Really impressive stuff. Of course, another up and coming juggernaut, coach. Or I guess really the one that came to fruition after what was clearly a good development plan with a great player group coming together, coached by Willie Desjardins, of course, in the form of the Medicine Hat Tigers, captured their sixth WHL title by defeating the Spokane Chiefs in 5 games in the Ed Chinweth Cup final, which ties them with the Kamloops Blazers for most in WHL history. Just a really good showing from that group, even as they dealt with like the ebbs and flows of having to keep guys out for a certain amount of time. Because I mean, even with Andrew Basha and Caden Lindstrom having come back for this series, of course, Lindstrom had to sit out a little bit, which I believe was planned to an extent. For at least one of those games, it was definitely something that they did as a load management thing. And Gavin McKenna even missed a couple, but they just had so many good options that even with the additions that Spokane made to their roster this year, and how just outstanding that first line was. I guess the best team ultimately won. With that, the Memorial Cup is fully booked as Rimouski qualified, of course, for the finals, which guaranteed that whoever they faced would have a berth as well, which, of course, ended up being the Moncton Wildcats, who have been the most consistent team throughout the QMJHL season. They being Moncton, of course, took a commanding 3-0 lead in that series, but Rimouski has won the last 2 games in this series in different ways, which was really a good demonstration of what that group is capable of, with one being a wire-to-wire victory and the other one being a close game where, they were arguably outplayed by the opponents, by their opponents for long stretches of action. And I think we might end up seeing this go to a 7th game, but only tomorrow's action will tell with them facing off in an afternoon matchup. Should be curious to see how that shakes out. Because I mean, let's face it, even with these teams automatically headed to the next stage, there's still some good hockey to be played because there is like a staple of pride in having the hardware to your name before you show up. And I imagine, that killer instinct of wanting to force a game 7 and on Rimouski's end, and Moncton, trying to avoid the embarrassment of potential reverse sweep is going to drive some really good play for however much longer this lasts. But we'll see what goes down. Beyond just that, of course, there's also the Clark Cup, as noted in my introduction. Quite a game 4 was played between Muskegon and Waterloo, in that Xavier Veilleux beat the buzzer in regulation for Muskegon to cap off. That was actually a pretty remarkable angle goal. Actually, now that I look at it for like the third time, just pretty impressive release from the circle, like basically right by a right side face off dot. Literally just an absolutely dramatic buzzer beater. It's really not surprising at all that good on them for good on ESPN for really digging into the crates for this one, to use a bit of hip hop sampling lingo, and finding a semi-obscure highlight, but really just a phenomenal shot, and a great cap off to that 2-goal comeback. Of course, it didn't result in a clincher for them, as Waterloo ultimately prevailed in the overtime that ensued to tie the series up and force a 5th game. But what a great moment of public relations generated, and just exposure for that league, that it had that level of play and drama that national sports media just had to get their hands on it. I was definitely satisfied to see that. And let's see. We do have the BCHL finals, the Fred Page Cup, going on right now as well, between the Brooks Bandits and the Chilliwack Chiefs. After 2 games, it is knotted up at 1 apiece, with Chilliwack having captured the most recent victory. So game 3, definitely a big momentum swinger potentially. We'll see how that goes down. 2 really good teams that were on impressive form throughout the year, going at it in this one. Puck drop for the Centennial Cup, which of course match the final for it, specifically between the Melfort Mustangs and the Calgary Canucks, to determine the CJHL's national champion. Took place literally basically just minutes ago. Good showing for some collegiate prospects in Tier 2. The playoff awards were announced today. Let's see. Top forward went to Anthony Hall of the Rockland Nationals in the CCHL. Nathan Maloney of the Calgary Canucks was handed top defenseman. Of course, they're the AJHL's representative in the Big Dance. The Cam River Fighting Walleyes, Ashton Sadowskis, of course, that's a member of the SIJHL, last year, 2023's Bill Salonen Cup champions. He was selected as the top goaltender for the tournament, and Lincoln Moore of the Greater Sudbury Cubs of the NOJHL was awarded the superlative for most sportsmanlike player. So congratulations to that bunch, as well as tournament MVP, which also as well as the recipient of. Okay, let me catch my breath. Anthony Hall also received MVP of the tournament for his performance and his terrific offensive output, in addition to having received forward of the tournament. So a really good look for him. Good indicator of the sort of talent that the Rockland Nats are producing. And so best of luck to all of these guys individually. And of course, best of luck to both Melfort and Calgary as this final gets underway. May the best team win. And I will also get a little, I guess, dev adjacent here and I guess fulfill my obligation that I've been slacking on a bit recently by giving a quick update on the Gagarin Cup finals. Of course, taking place between Lokomotiv Yaroslavl and Tractor Chelyabinsk. Let's see. Lokomotiv, who of course were the greatest team in the regular season this year, have taken a 2-1 lead by having emerged forward the victors in the most recent match by way of Game 3. Really impressive offensive output from Alexander Radulov, who's on a 4-game point streak currently, as noted by the KHL's English language web page, Twitter page specifically, in which he has 7 points. Overall, for this playoff run, he has 16 points in 19 games played. Strong performance just throughout this postseason for the 38-year-old. Definitely a big driving force for the success that they've had on this run. We're really in a win-win situation here, as whoever wins this series will be capturing their first ever Gagarin Cup championship. But of course, Lokomotiv would have a lot of sentiment attached to it, and would be a great cap off to how strong of an organization they've been on the ice the last couple of seasons, and especially just with them having been so consistently strong this year, particularly. It'd be pretty cool to see them capture a double when all is said and done. That covers all the main talking points for this week.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You know what I still don't understand? How the Vegas Golden Knights fucked around and found out.
Valid.
I've seen teams that were better than their opponent lose in the playoffs before. But it's kind of crazy how they just kind of couldn't beat a significantly inferior team. And I don't know who's gonna, it's one of those really interesting ones in modern NHL history of we talk about accountability, and I don't even know, who for that organization can be looked to it's not really fair to put the entire thing on Aiden Hill.
Absolutely not. I mean, he's not the reason his team got shut out in the last 2 games.
And like I look at that forward group and say, how did they not put up the goals against a team as defensively questionable and goalie sus? Like for a guy like Bruce Cassidy, who's so famed for his ability to draw up, the X's and O's, I don't I don't understand what the fuck went wrong there. Like stopping Edmonton from scoring is one problem, but actually scoring against Edmonton shouldn't be a problem historically. And I don't really know what they can do as an organization to really say we went 2 games scoring 0 goals against Edmonton. Like, luckily, if it's Vegas, they're gonna throw some random shit at a dartboard like they always do. And but man, like Edmonton having a shot at going back to the finals is pretty shocking to me.
Yeah, it's funny because like I don't root for VGK like actively, but I will say they are the team who I think is might be number one. They do have some competition amongst other juggernauts in the West for who I watch most frequently and say this is how hockey should be played. And because like they're like they're the biggest embodiment quite possibly of the beautiful game. So it was frustrating from like a viewing standpoint to just watch them absolutely flop uh, in such short order and have that flopping close out in such an emphatic way. But um, yeah, it should they should have a response organizationally, but like I also don't really anticipate that this is like it's gonna be like this long term sort of thing. Like the amount of implications that it'll have for next year are probably pretty slim in the grand scale.
Yeah, and that brings us to the other half of the West. I'm gonna say it, and I'm gonna probably get quote tweeted about this at some point when I'm gonna. I don't see how Dallas doesn't beat them this time because Winnipeg's defense, as bad as it is still more impressive than Edmonton's. Connor Hellebuck is not Connor Hellebuck delivered as expected in all but maybe one or 2 games in that series. I I don't the human that I is does not see how Edmonton's defense can withstand Dallas's puck moving in speed. I don't. They're gonna probably find a way to do it that makes no sense to me, and I'm gonna sit there and be like, "How the fuck did this just happen?" But like, Dallas's depth is horrifying. Their defense has somehow managed to withstand Colorado and Winnipeg. So it's not like McDavid presents the type of a type of threat they haven't already experienced in McKinnon. Like, sure, you can make the arguments about the nuance to each of their games, but like Connor McDavid does not really have any significant abilities or talents that are like inexplicably greater or different than McKinnon, besides maybe having a little bit more
Yeah.
speed or not speed, a little bit more skill and a little bit more speed in tight spaces, but he doesn't have the size and the range that McKinnon has. So, like, it's not like Dallas hasn't already encountered several MVP caliber players, or like nothing withstanding. Like Edmonton also hasn't faced a team with Dallas's speed in 4 weeks.
Yeah.
So this should be cut and dry, but somehow it probably won't be.
Yeah. It is interesting to contemplate just if like from like a statistical trend standpoint with this being like the fourth time out of six the past 6 seasons in the third in a row, if this is just the breakthrough moment that they finally wanted. And for that team, and then also like of course Pete DeBoer has really been on a number of deep runs without getting that next finals berth that he's been looking for over a decade at this point. And is it just like, is this when they get the breaks on top of having like this more or less an identical matchup advantage that they had last season in this same conference finals configuration? You have to wonder if this is just when the chips finally land that way. With that said, I will be right back because I did forget something in my sense of urgency to hop on here.
Yeah, no worries, the dang old Dallas Stars, Bobby, doing some good stuff, playing some great hockey, vanquishing tremendous foes. It's the kind of stuff you love to see. Jason Robertson being Jason Robertson. A showdown where Corey Perry once again plays Jamie Benn in a playoff game is always good to see. Corey Perry being himself. But out in the East, I will have to say I was reminded by our good friend Lenny, aka Damien, when I saw him earlier this week, that flashing back many episodes into the past when we did our our preseason predictions, I inched one step closer to inevitability this week as Carolina and Dallas are both in the Final Four this year, and somehow the one that we all proclaimed to be the madman on the podcast that night somehow is going to get exactly what he does not want, with Carolina being in the Final Four playing their brand of maple syrup drip hockey. But hey, at least we get to watch some Alexander Nikishin.
His detail orientedness and the confidence he has in his physical capabilities, both in like the attribute sense and the willingness to play on the edge, were immediately apparent in his first game, I thought. And like maybe even to a degree I wasn't fully expecting, because I think I'm on record as saying that the KHL to NHL transition is a lot easier than people think. It's among the easiest that there is in the world. Um, and I thought it was going to be good for him, even by the standards of defensive primes happening just a little bit later in someone's or beginning, and really just like the start of their true capabilities, starting just a little bit, not much, because I mean he's either 24 now or on the verge of becoming that. Um, let's see. Let me get a quick reminder. Probably, yeah, his birthday's probably later in the year because of him being a 2020 draftee. Yeah, October 2nd will be his 24th birthday. But with him being just behind that point, and with him coming from a different league, and really like me having some questions about system fit, I was pretty impressed by how things kicked off, and I am curious to see what he does in these further even more like high pressure situations that he's going to be in, and that's the most enriching part of watching Hurricanes hockey currently, and it's not particularly close either. Like this 23-year-old Russian rookie defenseman is the most exciting thing about that team. It's
You know, one thing I do lament, but also have exuberance for with him is again talking to our old buddy this week. If Carolina ends up playing Florida, I don't really see anything on Carolina's roster to convince me that it's going to go any different than last time around, with the exception of Stankoven and Nikishin, where like there may be a scenario in the Eastern Conference Final where like Rod Brind'Amour has to pull his head out of his ass and potentially look to Nikishin to use his skill set in a way that they haven't had from their players in the Eastern Conference Final before. Like I'm nervously excited that he may end up having to play a critical role for them to finally get to the fucking finals, because I think Slavin's incredible, the best DFD in the world. I think Spear has his toolkit on the left side, but like Jalen Chatfield he's not a difference maker. He's not a needle mover. We've seen how this story goes. We saw it last year. We've seen it before. Like they need somebody more dynamic and just more
yeah,
impactful if they're going to beat a team like
yeah,
Florida. Toronto, we don't know.
yeah.
Toronto's their own little. We've never seen Toronto with the pressure of playing in a conference title game, so I'm not going to pretend to be like, oh, we're going to need to expect this, this, and this in a series against the Leafs, because we just don't know. But against Florida, I think Nikishin's going to have it. Nikishin may have to be a critical element.
The proof is kind of in the pudding because Chatfield is exactly who he replaced in the lineup as well. Like you can dismiss it as like insufficient sample size, but like it's not. You kind of have to observe what actually happened in the dynamic shift within the back end, and just look at his individual results in that matchup, and had to think that it's a meaningful change adjustment, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, and the puck is down in that aforementioned Florida-Toronto game, and it looks like Florida is going to take the business to them because that's what they do. I don't know how I feel about this game 7. I don't know who's going to be the hero. I don't know anything.
Who's going to be the An hero?
Well, based on Craig Berube this postseason, I don't think anybody in Toronto is really playing An hero hockey, for better or for worse. They probably could have used that a little bit in Game 5, because when you're losing fucking 6-0, like usually when you're getting your doors blown off is the time to play An hero hockey. There's not really a better time to do it, because the consequences of being down 7-0 versus 6-1 are.
I will say, when stripping away the dynamics of An hero puck in its classical context as codified originally by Adam Fantilli, and just looking at it from a self-immolation standpoint, John Tavares has given me those self-destructive vibes at times this postseason.
Yeah, you know, who we know who never had a nice thing to say about John Tavares in the playoffs? Damien. I've never seen a man keep more receipts about a specific player's postseason performance, with legitimacy? Like I remember when Vegas won their Stanley Cup, and I was talking to some bozo about how he thought that Jack Eichel was the softest player in NHL history with no credibility. But know, to Damien's credit, his ability to keep receipts on every failure John Tavares had in the postseason in an Islanders hoodie or an Islanders sweater, and then his ability to keep receipts on every fuck up he had in Toronto is actually pretty impressive. You know, Corey Perry's knee notwithstanding, his ability to deliver high end yield without compromising success on the back foot is kind of who he is. He tries to play hero hockey, and there's a reason he doesn't win too many game sevens, if any.
I'm still a bigger fan of the
And this
original
coming,
and hero puck thing, just because of its ties to hero ball, and also with us having codified ref puck as a ref ball equivalent. But I do sort of like the alliteration of and hero hockey as well.
I also think that tying it back to Tavares as a former Islander really really codifies a lot for me because I don't know how much of Madden 25 you ever played. But every time we use the term "and hero hockey," I think of the bit of Phil Simms talking about when you try to be a hero, bad things happen. And so I think of Phil Simms a lot with hero hockey, and so it's always going to have that strong New York, New Jersey tie to it. Adam Fantilli, future New York Giant, confirmed. I don't think Phil Simms gets enough shit.
Definitely not. I hate him.
I don't have anything further. I don't want to elaborate any further on that because that's not what this podcast is for. But for all the hate that I give to Colin Cowherd and all the hate that I give to occasionally Nick Wright and Ryan Clark, Phil Simms and Chris, to be fair, get away with a lot of stupidity.
Oh man.
Phil Simms. We got to put Phil Simms in a broadcast. He could replace Ken Danico on the Devils broadcast. You wouldn't even tell the difference in brain power.
No. Both about at the same level as CTE.
Yeah. Both won championships due to being surrounded by much greater peers. The only difference is, if I think of, Phil Simms as more talented and equally, if not more so, successful rival, and Joe Theismann not being in the Hall of Fame, I can't really think of a guy in the Washington sports ecosystem that was better than Danico, which not hard, but somehow less well remembered than Danico. I'd have to probably do some deep digging on that one.
I was gonna, for some reason, I thought of like Wes Unseld at first, but with him being by and far the best player in Washington Bullets / Wizards history, like he has the long lasting esteem, especially amongst the community that accounts for large swaths of the DC sports fan demographic.
Come to think of it, Alex Ovechkin's kind of a unicorn where he's probably the most prevailing Washington sports icon outside of DC, the Metro DC area at the end of his career. Because there have been some pretty good players, across all sports, but like none of them really had much staying power in the mindset of national interest, which is kind of weird. Heh, whack. Fucking Washington sports.
I gotta think on this
Damn you,
now.
damn you, Steven Strasburg, not living up to the hype, even though you won a championship with the
Yeah,
Nationals.
I was thinking about that. I was like, hey, he can say that, and Bryce Harper can't. So
Yeah, you know, the thing is, like, I'm not a big baseball guy, as we all know, but like, if I didn't grow up when I did, like, I don't think you're gonna see any like Zoomer under 25 remember Steven Strasburg, despite how good he was. And I only remember Steven Strasburg because I used to watch ESPN like during his rookie year when he was on a pitch count every game. Like people kind of forget he used to have some Tim Tebow level treatment, in his first couple years in the majors, where like anything he did was covered by Sports Center. And now people think I'm mispronouncing Steven Spielberg. Shame.
where do you, how do you think John Riggins ranks in the national consciousness?
I hate that question because I'm a guy who thinks about John Riggins once a week. Uh, but unfortunately, I don't know if I'd say less than a tenth of the U.S. population under the age of 40 even knows who John Riggins is. Because like when people talk about Christian McCaffrey and his success as a white running back in the modern NFL, people act like he's the first of his breed, and it's not even like they don't even bring up, a comp to, John Riggins or even, Allstott. And I know Allstott's a fullback, but like John Riggins is so heavily forgotten about in the national narrative that we don't like nobody talks about him. Like when like I think about like Derrick Henry just signing his extension with the Ravens as like one of the most highly paid over the hill, over 30-year-old power backs and the efficacy of, is this a smart decision because of an over 30 power back? And I sit there and think, how is John Riggins not trending in this narrative since he's literally like the image of an over the hill 30-year-old running back being a force of demolition in the postseason? Like, so I think that unfortunately John Riggins has been forgotten to time.
I actually have an anecdote about that. It's in the extent of it to really enforce maybe uh, some long-term effects of how true that is, but I will save it for when we are not on the air because I don't feel responsible. I won't feel responsible if I feel if I share it. It'll be a bit reckless on my part.
That's fair, but I will also give, a little tap on the back to this podcast for we are John Riggins national history preservationists. I guarantee you we've talked more about John Riggins on this hockey podcast than most football podcasts in the last 3 years.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we're keeping, we're keeping the power backs of the NFL relevant in hockey circles, Marion Barber and John Riggins forever.
Oh, that was a good one.
Obligatory Lawrence Maroney reference in case we ever feel a need to bring him up later so we can say it happened more than once.
Well, you know who I will slander though is without apology, without really any apologetics at all. Like is someone who I feel is Phil Simms-esque in the form of Chris Collinsworth, solely because uh, to juxtapose this against the Ken Danico comp. He is very Scott Stevens-esque in his well-documented affinity for underage girls.
Oh yeah, good old Kid Rock.
Osmosis
Never.
Jones.
I was gonna say never forget Osmosis Jones.
Classic,
Some
man.
say statutory.
What? I hate how this is how the hour is winding down, but I also love it.
I mean, hey man, that is a kid's movie, and it has not been fixed or removed all these years later. So it is, you know, I wonder if Kid Rock was recompense to hockey. Like, I wonder if Kid Rock's national influence as a member of Detroit, if he was the price that Detroit paid for those Red Wings cups. Like, was the wrath of Kid Rock's success and national influence the price that Detroit had to pay that he'd be forever affiliated with that city?
I mean, yeah, uh, from like a consistency uh, standpoint, but I also feel like Eminem's presence in a different way as a public figure has not. Well, I mean, he had controversy attached to him, but he was more beloved as an artistic figure at the time. But like in many different ways, his prevalence as a Detroit cultural ambassador hasn't aged well. I will say. So that there's another layer to it. I would say.
On the topic of, trying to wind this back to something with hockey and something the New York Islanders and something Cole Iserman, being Amesbury adjacent. It's kind of lives rent free in my head all these years later that when I was doing that layout work at the school in Amesbury, the fact that the curbing installers were bumping Kid Rock and that particular song was on the Kid Rock playlist,
Jesus
bumping
Christ.
very loudly on their JBL speaker
Holy
while
fuck.
they were building a school next to an active school is
Jesus H. Christ.
just something I felt was finally relevant to mention on this podcast that you know this might be why the city of Amesbury hasn't produced an NHL player in a long time. Curb installers from New Hampshire. I won't name the company, but for those of you at home, there's only about 4 curbing installers in the entire state of New Hampshire. So if you're curious or want a good quote on curb installation this summer, uh, yeah, you can get some Kid Rock bumping while you're getting your curb installed.
Jeez.
I think that is a good transition to a big finish.
Um, well, my feelings on this are pretty well documented as we received we put out some good vibes in our press handling of this topic and received quite a bit of positive attention from it and additional support, which was nice and refreshing to see. You know, we thank everyone who participated in that, as well as continue to support the creative and analytical content that was tied to it. But I really had to commend and even though this is old news, I really feel like I want to emphasize this because, like, TSN didn't do a very good job emphasizing its importance when interviewing one of the players in question when they had him on virtually. Like, I was really disappointed. I am very rarely disappointed in Craig Button because my expectations for him are on the fucking floor. Like they might even be below the fucking floor. They're probably below the dirt. Uh, that is currently exposed on my street as it undergoes a reclamation project by the Department of Public Works, with all the gravel being stripped off. Like it's probably my expectations for Greg Button are probably buried below that dirt somewhere. Um, but I will, really commend what the Regina Pats did uh, in their aggressiveness in setting themselves up for the future. As not only did they make the expected move by taking Maddox Schultz first overall, but they did the most amazing job in aggressively trading for Kelowna's third overall pick in a really, really good value deal as well, to pick up Liam Pugh to supplement him and have like the ultimate forward core for the future in the WHL. Like the amount of possibilities this opens up, regardless of if those guys play together as line mates, is absurd because you're just going to have two different, seemingly unstoppable forward archetypes that teams will have to face, uh, and just will like dominate shifts and take over games and like using different skill sets and physical profiles. Like it was like a real good bit of ingenuity and aggressive team building in a way that's really atypical for the CHL in some respects. Some teams get aggressive in recruiting, but it doesn't always look like that. And some teams might build a super team, but it won't be like this long-term project type thing. It's usually like, you know, teams just like aggressively trading for talented overagers at a deadline. Like these guys drafted amazingly by pulling all the right levers to make sure that they're set up for at least like, the next handful of years. There, it might even be significant. Like both of these guys are eligible to play 34 games next year, thanks to them having received prior exceptional player status at different points in their dev career prior to this. And those like games alone will, give them like a real adrenaline shot to be like, even if they're not a contender, they probably won't be. They'll be a very relevant and exciting to watch team for large swaths, at least a guaranteed half of next season. There will be a lot of excitement and energy around that team. And I think that's really, really fucking cool. And I really can't commend them enough for what they did as an org to make this sort of thing happen. Like, I really think that with a 1-2 punch like that, they even with all like the amazing generational talents that have played in the dub, with the likes of Bedard, in the recent past, McKenna currently, DuPont currently. I'll even throw Keaton Verhoff's name in that crop as well. Even if the realization process for how special he is something that's kind of happening a little slowly, albeit picking up a lot. Uh, I really think they're going to be the most exciting to watch WHL team in a long, long time. Like this team might even be the best and most stimulating product on ice, possibly since the Kamloops Blazers dynasty of the 90s. I'm not saying it will happen, but it absolutely could. And I really give them a lot of credit for that.
Um, a lot to digest this week in hockey. I think my big one, I'm gonna end on a less urgent matter, and really just I like Utah's branding. I like the Mammoth announcement. I like them getting a decent look at the draft lottery. I think they had a much less controversial logo reveal than Seattle. All things considered, I think the Mammoth are a pretty good team name, a pretty good brand identity. I think they're really they're going to deliver a pretty good product in Utah. Obviously, we all knew that the New Jerseys were going to be shit because, they're going to be compared to the Coyotes, who had the most impressively well-designed uniform, arguably in professional sports for many years. So, we were allowed to just accept what was going to be. And, I'm always down for good branding. I'm good for growing the game in Utah again, building up hockey on the West Coast. I know it doesn't touch the water. Over in the West is great for the game, Love the branding, love the identity, love the fact that geographical area can finally really brand themselves, and also just the geographical location, with everything that's gone on, um, putting a team right in the middle, truly spot in the middle between Vegas and Denver, just feels right.
Absolutely.
I also like that from right to left it goes from the most dangerous thing in the rivalry to the least dangerous thing in the rivalry. Cinema. Avalanche kills Mammoth kills Human. I mean Golden Knight. And that's all I got.
Why is Rodrigo Albles the actually uh, okay, I mean yeah, I get it. It's the World Championships effect, but like really, why are Duns Melis and Rodrigo Albles the second and third most trending players on Elite Prospects right now? Like does IIHF really have that much of a sway over people?
Uh, at this point in the year, probably. I think that this tournament, although it happens at a very concentrated time in the year, with great playoff hockey, the thing with great playoff hockey is not everybody's playing at the same time. So you kind of get into a world where, when you look at that trending list, like Andre Amboul being up there is pretty funny, and I think probably the most shocking thing looking at their trending that I want to understand is why is Tim Lavelle trending?
You never know how guys might uh, get their path into or to the public consciousness or like back into or into the pros. Like, I mean, like I think about um, I think about how like it almost seemed like a fait accompli that Maxime Comtois was just going to be stuck abroad. But like there is, I think Detroit was one team that was interested based off of his performance for Dynamo Moscow this year. And seems to be a pathway for him back into the show. But uh, uh, but yeah, that one definitely caught my eye as well. Like I just it's honestly weird to me that I even like remember his name at this point. Like I just I don't really have words for that one and cannot explain the screws and bolts behind that one at all. But what would EP be without these bizarre trendings like that one guy who happened to be named very similarly to Robert Prevost, of course, now known as Pope Leo, and so much so that his nick that other Robert Prevost now not spelled the same way. His nickname on his EP profile is now the Pope. So we really need this sort of mania on that website, honestly. But yeah, that about covers all the major bases for this week. Um, you know, we were pretty glad to get back at it. we apologize for some of the technical situation stuff that was an obstruction uh, today. But hopefully, we have anything of that nature resolved by the time we come back. We are, scheduled to be back on next week and to continue to put out regular episodes and regular written content. I will remain active during Memorial Cup season for the rest of the month. And this week, this coming week, I will be, I'll be more consistent than I've been, even though, of course, I've, you know, had seen an uptick in productivity. I will be more of a steady presence in the coming times, and I look forward to sharing that with you all. Thank you to everybody who um, continuously supports this product or is interested. Whether you've been here on the ride for quite some time, or if you're discovering us through our increased results in really cracking Google search engine optimization, which has been pretty surreal to see on my part. A lot of my articles in particular have been benefiting from that, and I really thank everybody who's made that possible. But yeah, there will be plenty more to come. Thank you to everybody who tuned in. Thank you to everyone who's checking us out on Spotify and YouTube. We'll be back at it again next Sunday. Take care, everybody. Have a great night.